All right, well, welcome everyone. I am going to call the zoning administrator meeting for Thursday, April 4th, 2024 to order at 3 p.m. My name is Adam Atamian. Today I will be serving as the zoning administrator. First item on our agenda is to receive and file the minutes from the March 21st, 2024 zoning administrator meeting. I have reviewed the minutes and I have no changes, so I will move to receive and file those minutes. The second item is oral and written communications. Members of the audience may address the zoning administrator on any item within the jurisdiction of the zoning administrator that is not on the zoning administrator agenda. Do we have any members of the public that would like to speak on an item not on the agenda? Seeing nobody, we will move on to public hearings. The public hearing process includes a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant not to exceed 10 minutes, and public testimony not to exceed 3 minutes per speaker. Following closure of the public hearing, the zoning administrator will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. We have one public hearing today. That is the continued public hearing project 23-411 Sunset Shores Facade Remodel. And Mr. Zach Ream is our planner.
Thank you. Agenda item 4A is public hearing project PHP 23411. That's Sunset Shores Facade Remodel. It's a request for a development permit, DP 23-415, to allow exterior facade and roof improvements, including height increase for false roof extensions and embellishments to an existing 18-unit condominium building, and finding that the project is categorically exempt from CEQA. The site location is 410 Corto Lane, shown on this slide. The site is a 1.27 acre oceanfront beachfronting bluff-top lot. The condominium building atop it was developed in 1980. The site's within the Pier Bowl specific plan area and residential high-density zoning district. It's also in the coastal zone overlay and the architectural overlay. Surrounding land uses include mostly other condominium buildings on either side, and kind of behind it on this side, condominium here, and then the Casa Romantica Cultural Center is 2 lots to the south. There are no historic residential buildings within 300 feet of the subject site, but there's a few sprinkled up here, just slightly further away, and then the Casa Romantica isn't residential, but it is historic. So this is the most current iteration of the renderings. As I'll go through on the next few slides, the applicant and the architect have revised the rendering and the project design 3 or 4 times. But generally what's proposed includes 9 elements: stairwells to receive roof extensions to create towers for architectural aesthetic purposes. The stairwells themselves wouldn't change. Wood guardrails to be replaced with wrought iron along the street frontages, but not proposed along the coastal side. Slump block wall to be covered with smooth exterior plaster and modded finish. S-tiles on the roof to be replaced with authentic 2-piece clay barrel tiles. And then false roofs on both ends of the building, especially near the street ends, to receive small roof extensions and embellishments. Framed non-structural pop-outs to modify the form of the facade, replacement of windows on, again, mostly on the building ends, on the street ends, to incorporate divided lights and window enhancements, surface-mounted grills to stimulate fenestration, and decorative parapets on multiple facades to cover chimney metals and exhaust pipes and ventilation. Here's the materials board. Most significantly is the roof tile there. And then the metal grills, I think we're down to only a few metal grills. There were more on the original design.
Yeah.
Some wrought iron finishes and the light fixtures.
You know what? We negated those.
Yeah. So this project went to DRSC in January, and DRSC had some feedback that's a little tough to read on this slide, but in general they wanted more variation in architectural treatments rather than symmetry like you see here. This facade was deemed a bit too symmetrical with this and then this matching and this matching. So the design was modified in response to DRSC. They also commented on the roof embellishments and said there could be some more asymmetry in the different roof embellishments. Some could be higher than others or positioned differently. Another slide that's tough to read. Just generally it shows that there have been multiple back and forths with staff about aesthetic treatments with the architect and the applicant. We talked about this facade most significantly along Amoroso Place, but also the facade on Quarto Lane. There's a trellis that's been added above the main entrance that wasn't there before. There's fewer grills. There's variation in the windows. The roof doesn't look much different on this slide compared to the last ones, but the roof has been modified. And then there were some clarifications related to the front entryway and the trash enclosure, meeting setback requirements and not blocking off the existing public access here. So then, before the last zoning administrator meeting was scheduled, there were community concerns about height and views on the roof line with the false tower elements and the roof parapets, and potentially affecting mostly private views, but potentially public views if observed from certain angles. So the applicant and the architect have revised the plans shown in these little clouded callouts, mostly to cut back or to narrow different roof elements that would have restricted, again, mostly private views. But this one got shorter, these ones got trimmed, this one got shorter. So I think the predominant roof features that remain are the towers more so than the false chimneys. Tony can expand on that later. The max height is still calculated the same by the city's height calculations. It's 42 feet, and the max height in the district allowed is 45 feet. But there's just fewer areas where there's a potential view impact. So the last issue that's been touched on repeatedly at the DRSC meeting and by staff, and I know the applicant and the architect discussed it with their ownership, is these oceanfront railings that the public sees both from this public bluff access path and a little bit from the other public beach access path on the other side of the building, and then also from the public beach. You can see this facade, although it's at a distance. And the concern there is just the variation in these railings, how you have some that are this metal and some even have it looks like plastic or vinyl on them, and then there's some that are glass, and there's different glass treatments, and there's different variation in the wrought iron as you go along the building. So those have been replaced over the years, it seems like, one by one, and DRSC asked whether there could be more consistency applied through this design. The applicant's chosen not to propose that at this time, but staff has a recommended condition to address that would provide that the applicant, through their HOA and with the city planner, must work on a more consistent design going forward, and that design would have to have spatial and revival architectural elements as well as building code consistency. If it's going to be a wrought iron design, they'd have to be consistent in height and the slat width and generally material treatment. And the staff recommended condition is that would apply to all outdoors replaced under this project, which is mostly the ones on the sides of the building. This project doesn't include that, but ideally it'd be the same material that whatever goes forward here would be replaced. In the future, any future private improvements to individual units would have to use the same sort of treatment that's used in this project, and potentially any guardrails which are found to have been replaced without permits. I don't think staff's going to launch an in-depth investigation at this time, but if there are any that come back, they would have to replace with the same. Staff's recommending two other special conditions. One is our pretty standard 5-foot wide sidewalk and easement unless a waiver is granted by Engineering and Public Works. And then there are slightly revised special conditions that then were recommended at the last ZA hearing related to the specific architectural treatments, the quality and the application of the roof tiles and the stucco application that have been applied to similar new and remodeled condominium buildings and homes and businesses. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Would the applicant like to make a presentation? And if so, you have 10 minutes.
Yeah, well, you've done a good job, pretty much covered all the bases. Specifically, the first design element was from DRC to get rid of the symmetry, and they had commented, in fact, they had encouraged even more towers and even more height, but we decided to keep it no higher than originally. And in fact, the tower we made, the asymmetrical tower, the tower closer to the ocean, we actually lowered. And additionally, the comments, we actually had a Zoom meeting with a few of the neighbors, the HOA, and we met with the neighbors, and they expressed their concerns, and that's when you receive the revisions. And I would say, practically speaking, we looked at the model and we looked at the photos from the neighbors, and the front facade that faces Cordo and Arenoso, the sight lines, they don't even affect the sight lines simply because you see over those, you see the roof. The question was, they had the pipes, the chimney pipes that face the ocean, where we were going to do more of a parapet. So in response, it was like, well, either way, you're looking at pipes. So, but we can cut those down to 2 foot. They're kind of all over the place right now. And then we created just a well small enough to capture those so you don't see them from below. And we kept our new parapet basically 2 foot, which is code minimum. So that was a response. So that's why you received. And there was a front decorative chimney element, which we didn't really feel was. It was like, yeah, I was fine to change the scale of it. It was kind of in the zone either way, whether it's a foot. I think we lowered it 21 inches, so it's pretty insignificant in that. So, and to reiterate, we're not adding. There's no square footage. This is purely cosmetic and to increase the aesthetic appeal. And I do have a specific question so I'm fine with the conditions of if you. I'm assuming, because this would go through building and safety. Whatever we do is going through building and safety, then obviously it'll go through planning. So am I understanding correctly that the authentic design you're looking for the guardrail, that would be checked by planning as well? Is that where the condition comes in?
That's the staff recommendation, is the HOA would submit a design to the city planner, and the city planner would review that through the building plan.
Yeah, it's so prior to construction. Yeah, we're fine with that. Then the other question I have specifically is, on the oceanside guardrails, I'm with you as far as consistency. Am I reading it correctly that that if anybody decides to change a railing, it's got to be wrought iron, or if anybody changes railing? Because I actually would, because I think and Kelly, please jump in. Mm-hmm. But I believe if the owner decided, hey, for aesthetic purposes, we'd really like a consistent look, I would assume they would all want glass. So I feel feels far stronger. Like if you're pushing for a consistent look, that's great. I think it would be a hard sell, or I'm not sure how you would implement to go everybody from glass to wrought iron. Then at that point, nobody would do anything. So anyway, I'm not sure if I misunderstood how that was written.
Yeah, because most upgrades have been to glass. Oh. The ones that are wrought iron are the last, like, oldies but goodies, are the last ones that haven't remodeled, basically.
The staff recommendation is consistency going forward, and the zoning administrator may have more specifics to add. Mm-hmm. Glass is an option if you submit a design that is consistent with Spanish colonial revival architecture and that will look good consistently along the facade prior to your building permit. That's what you'll be committing to for future owners.
Yeah, and that's reasonable. So if we were to do one, we would submit one and get that approved, and once we know, we have a template for anybody moving.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was pretty much the comments that I want to add and the question I had. And then the last additional question. So this will go through coastal as well, then?
There's a special condition that the applicant has to submit evidence to the city planner that it's been reviewed by coastal. That may come in the form that coastal deems it exempt from permit requirements if it's a less than 10% increase in height, which I think it is. If coastal decides they want to do a full review and do a coastal permit, then that's what you submit to the city planner.
Got it. So, but we initiate that on our end through coastal. Okay, great.
Okay. I will open the public hearing. I see a couple people in the room. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment? You have 3 minutes. If you could just state your name for the record.
Great. All right. I'm Robin Saul. I'm a homeowner, 16 years at Reed Gate West. We are south of Sunset Shores. We were lucky enough that they agreed to meet with us at the 10th hour, night before the last zoning meeting, and we really appreciated that. And we were thrilled that they were willing to go back to the drawing board to make some changes. My biggest concern is we have 13 units. We are the C building. We look up and over Sunset Shores. So as you go down the street on Cordo, it kind of goes at an angle, which means that the units that are closer to the Cordo and Avenida Granada side, they will be more impacted by the towers that they're putting up on the southeast corners. They did drop them 1 foot 10 inches. Thank you. But still, we still have an issue with the fact that when they're looking down like that, they're going to be losing all of their ocean view. I know that Tony doesn't agree with this, but at the same time, it goes like that. These are not structural. They are faux. They are creating a facade. They're trying to beautify their roof. We are the only ones that look at their roof from the entire area. We look down on their roof. The pipes can be fitted, which they will be doing, but still ocean views are going to be gone for a few of our units. And that means property values go down. We're the Spanish city by the sea, and in my opinion, we should have a view of the sea if that's why we bought our homes, and it brings quality of life to us in a positive manner. And I just hope that maybe that tower on the end can be removed. I didn't realize that it was a tower that wasn't existing when we were at the meeting with them. They did drop it 1.5 feet, which we appreciate, but at the same time, it's not enough to help those on the end. And I know that we're not in the business of keeping views and making everything nice for the city, but honestly, I think that as a city, we should be taking views into account, and we are the closest ones to the ocean there, and we are going to be losing our views. Out of 13 units out of 72, I think that's a big impact. So we're already impacted by the cost of trees, which I'm sure you guys all know about. Those have taken away our views, and now we're dealing with the north side and, again, view obliteration. So thank you for letting me speak, and certainly hope that you'll take that into account when you. And also the other thing in regards to the city encouraging them to even go higher. I don't understand why we would go higher. What's the purpose in going higher? It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me that we would be doing this to our homeowners who, respect San Clemente and try to be good neighbors and a good community here. And Zach, thanks for all your help on this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
And just to clarify, you said you're on if you go to the end of Coeur d'Alene,
Yes.
you're the building on the left side, but
Yes.
behind the one that had the issues with the Casa Romana.
That is correct, right?
It's that building?
Yeah, absolutely. And so
is that, are your concerns, is that from all floors of that building, or is that more?
First and second floor don't really have any views. It's the third and fourth floors that have views. We have 6 units per floor, which means that we have 12. And the ones in the back, I'm closer to the front, in all transparency. So the view impact for myself isn't going to be as impactful, but it will still be impactful. It will take away my whitewater views that I have. And I can see, so I'll be able to see the vast ocean, but I will lose my whitewater views, and I'll also lose, we see like dolphins in that plane in the surf line there. And that's really exciting for us. We will lose that. I mean, and if my recommendation would be to even, if we had to, just put some boxes on the roof and just figure out with cardboard boxes how the views will really be impacted. Because we don't know when it's a flat roof like that. And you know, but I don't even know if that's an option, that we can do some sort of height, what do you call it, survey, you know, to see if we can see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate
you.
that.
Uh-huh.
Sir, would you like to make a comment?
No, I'm just here to listen.
Just here to listen. All right. I appreciate that.
S-A-U-L, as is in Sam.
Okay. So, thank you, Zach, and thank you, Tony, and
Kelly, I'm the
Kelly.
property manager for
Okay.
Sunset Shores.
I appreciate your input, and I thank the member of the public who spoke. So a few questions, just to clarify things. So what is the actual height increase of that's being requested here today?
I would direct specifics to Tony, but the way the city calculated it, the highest elements of the roof line now are 40 feet and would be extended to 42 feet.
Can I project?
No.
Okay.
I'll if there are some additional questions, let's hold off on that. Let me ask my questions.
The highest portion before actually was going to be those false chimneys, which it said in the staff report were extending 2 feet higher, but I think in the last iteration, basically those false chimneys have been removed. So those would have gone to maybe 44 feet.
And it's literally one point of a hip, not a continuous ridge of 2 feet addition. So the tower comes up, so it literally hits at one point, kind of like a pyramid.
Okay. Okay. So I know that there was some discussion with the neighbors. What was? Did we get any other public comments?
Prior to the last zoning administrator meeting, we got about 6 or 7 comments, I believe all from the adjacent condominium building.
Okay. And how many people did the applicants meet with?
We had a Zoom meeting. Oh, there was probably
We had a
6,
Zoom meeting.
maybe?
There's probably 6 or 7, and then we had from Reefgate, and then the gentleman also called myself and also a board member. So we discussed with him prior to the Zoom meeting, and then it was you and me, and then it was 2 or 3 board members from Sunset Shores.
Okay. And then what was the information that was presented at those meetings? Because I can.
Yeah,
the
so
plans
we
are
actually,
a little difficult.
yeah, so we actually got, I don't know if it was your photo, but we got the photo of the angle that they were talking about. And we looked at it, and I said, oh, okay, clearly the ones, the parapets facing the ocean, the ones we clouded in blue, those come up above. And I was like, yeah, clearly, and I told HO, that's clearly an area where we can lower it, which we did. But if you look on the right, what looks like the pyramid, the hip roof on the corner, that one didn't come up over so by the time the roof, it's still at the same level as the brown roof. So it doesn't even come up over the existing horizon line, if you will. So that's why it was like, oh, well, we'll gladly lower the ones that do come up over, that it's clearly noticeable, like, hey, we see, by those parapets, they would see less ocean, like by covering the pipe. So we push those things as low as possible. The facade corner hips they had no impact on the ocean because of the top of the roof was still, it didn't come up higher than the actual ocean. It didn't come up past the edge of the building as you foreshortened it. Plus, I brought the computer model out, and they all saw it on the Zoom meeting, and I spun it around and I kicked it up, and that southeast tower does not go any. When you take it, even though it's higher, by the time you foreshorten it, it didn't cut off any of the edge of the building.
Okay, so all right, so on the roof plan, I'll say the enclosures for the pipes.
Yes.
Those were lowered 2 feet
Those are the ones that
because
were
those are right on the ocean fronting
and
edge.
because they're on the furthest west part of the building, when you're on the third floor, the neighbors, and you tip it over, those actually do come up.
Okay.
So that's we said, and I was like, yeah, these are the ones that could get lowered.
Mm-hmm.
The only other solution is not putting them there if you just want to leave the pipes. But this one, by the time you tip the building, this doesn't go past. You didn't cut it off because it's not tall enough. There's a point I think if we
Yeah.
raised it 5 feet, it would have clipped the view.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of why I told the HOA, and I mentioned in the building, it's like it would do nothing to lower that because it wouldn't. You're still going to see a brown roof, either red roof or a brown roof.
Okay, and so the two new roof elements, the tower elements, I'll call them, that are closest to the ocean front, how much taller are they than the existing roof? There. So it's a little hard to choose that
Right.
on the elevations.
Yeah, I'm sure I could do it. So I would say,
And those,
so right now there is a little bit of a roof there, so probably the distance between there, probably 2 feet. But remember, it's the 2 feet of a pyramid. So if I were to, so those towers in the corner right now, it's just a square building, right? And then they have these little fake roofs that go there, and they stop. So that's what they go up there, and it just stops. It's like a dummy roof. So what we did was just increase it that much. So you see what I'm saying? So when you look at it from the top,
okay, because the way I'm seeing the plans here is you're talking about this
yes,
right there.
right, and it just continues up. The plate rises and it continues up, but it's about 2 feet higher than what that was, just at the peak.
Okay, and this is. Okay, so that's the ocean-facing side.
Right.
So that's the existing.
Right, there you
Is
go.
where that's
Yes.
located now. Okay, and so that comes up
Right.
minimally there. Okay, all right, that clarifies that. As far as the enclosures for the pipes, the roof plan looks like they're U-shaped.
Yes, just kind of rather than just like a dummy facade. The minute you turn your head around the corner, so I wanted to kind of wrap it a little bit. But
So if there are concerns, if we're trying to dress this up, and there are concerns about the views looking down on this building, why not close them off on the backside?
yes, but even if I close it off from the backside, because it projects up to the roof, I mean it would it would still come up a little bit past the roof, but it wouldn't. It would really have no. If you're down on the ocean looking up, if the coverage was on the backside, you're still going to see the pipes from the pool and the ocean side.
No, I mean, why not box this out so that the people over here aren't seeing as much of the pipe?
Oh well, that would solve their pipe issue, but it's not. It doesn't address the height issue.
Yeah, but it wouldn't add any.
No,
that
no.
wouldn't add any additional.
No, they wouldn't
impact,
be-
but that would be at least some type of benefit. I mean, the pipes are not attractive.
No, not at all. Absolutely. So if the city was like, hey, cover the backside, we would gladly do that. I just want to make sure that everybody knows that wouldn't really impact. That's not addressing.
The ocean view.
Yeah. So I literally, other than doing nothing, we can't cover the pipes.
Keeping this at the same height.
Right.
And I would assume that from looking down, you'll still see some of the pipe, but at least
Correct.
a little bit more.
Yeah, it would be, as far as visually, it would be more pleasing to see the backside, but it still would, it would be coming up. So,
Okay.
So that addresses an aesthetic, but it doesn't address a view question.
Okay. A couple of the notes on the plans, I just want to confirm this. There's a listing for the new roof with roof tile, and it describes the
Two-piece mission.
two-piece, yeah. And then it's got the same material call out for the existing roof.
Right. So, for example,
But the existing roof is not going to remain.
So you see, on the front, there's these little parapets there. That's the existing roof we're keeping that already has the S-tile. We're just saying get rid of the S-tile.
Yeah,
And
that's what
really,
I mean. You're replacing the S tile.
That's correct.
With that. Okay.
yeah, just so you can see the ends, the two-piece, and it looks more authentic from the edge. So that's why I designated there's a Keynote 1 and a Keynote 2. Keynote 2 is to say, well, I wanted to make sure, and if you look at the roof plan, it clearly says existing roof to get new tiles versus new roof.
Okay. Some comments were made about the rear deck. So when I went down there, and I report this out as a site visit, I did visit the site prior to the last zoning administrator meeting when this was scheduled. This is the only building in this general vicinity that has glass railings. There's nothing else in the area that has glass. I appreciate the desire to improve the architecture of the building, but the glass will need to get addressed. And I don't want to give any false impression that the condition of approval that's being applied is going to make a path forward for glass to remain long-term. I know a number of these have been replaced with permits, and these are under the ownership of individual condo unit owners. But the reason that glass was approved was because our code identifies a threshold, a trigger, at what time Spanish colonial revival is required in an area where Spanish colonial architecture is necessary. And it basically says that if the project is not large enough to make substantial impacts to further an existing Spanish colonial design, that architectural elements that simply blend in with the existing architecture are permitted. Now that you're going through this project and you're making this property much more in line with Spanish colonial revival architecture, glass is not going to be something that our staff is going to be able to permit. We will support, or I should say, staff, is supportive of allowing the maintenance of glass. But once it reaches its useful lifespan and needs to be replaced, it's not going to be glass. And you can see this by the Arenoso Lane apartments right next door. You can even see it on some of the older buildings that have wood railing, but it's a baluster type application, much more in line with Spanish colonial. So if this is approved with that condition, I want to make it clear, wrought iron is going to be required. The other reason I say that is because the front of this building is being proposed to have wrought iron, and there would be absolutely no design basis to have a different railing system on the front versus the back, regardless of the impact of views.
So does that mean that if the glass stays, but when they go to change it, then they have to change it to the wrought iron?
Yeah.
And then will there be a specific wrought iron or design or color that it has to amend to?
I think staff is going to look at this and say it needs to match the rest of the building.
Okay.
That's what the condition says. The preference would be that the design may be similar to that identified on sheet 4.2 northeast elevation, or another design reviewed by the HOA and the city planner. And the intent was to have it be the same for the front and the back. Maybe I made an erroneous comment earlier.
No, you were correct.
This says has to be consistent and identifies the best version.
Yeah, and typically the Olehan Centers, Santa Barbara, it's simple. It's not the curly Q Italian. It's just straight bars with collars, and we're not trying to reinvent the wheel there. And I would say I can't, I'm not going to speak towards view, but as far as because considering architecturally we're not doing anything back there, a railing would yield the maximum bang for the buck in terms of a transformative, like without even changing the architecture. Literally, the railings would transform the look of the building. Now, I can't say if that's someone's. I mean, you already have people that have balustrade. The one in the lower left-hand corner.
Yeah, well, they had those were originals. They
Right.
already had the wrought iron.
Right. Yeah. So all I'm suggesting on behalf that I'm in agreement with staff as it does make sense that it would be wrought iron, and I would just say as your same, the whole intent of the project was to achieve a transformative remodel without spending and going nuts. The railings yield lots of design benefit for minimal cost,
Right.
relatively speaking.
Right. No, I was just wondering because I managed several in Laguna, and most of them are going to glass, and a lot of it is because the view. So
Right.
but I just because they're going to ask me, so I just want to make sure I have the correct information to give back.
Yeah, I would say, this area is, as far as residential development goes, the most critical in terms of maintaining the Spanish Village
Yeah.
legacy character.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, moving forward, we will want to ensure that anything doesn't detract from the improvements being proposed here today.
Last question on the glass rail. We haven't done this. I've do a lot of work with the Irvine Company down in Crystal Cove and there, but I've done jobs down in Carlsbad where the framework was wrought iron, but rather than the infill panels being wrought iron, they did infill glass with Spanish colonial framework. Have you come across any hybrids like that in San Clemente?
Yes, but not in an area that has a requirement for Spanish colonial
Okay.
revival. There's I want to say, Sea Summit has had a few modifications to their railings, and I know that they were trying to incorporate some glass, but that area is it was approved under a design concept, but they're not. They could have proposed a different style of railing, had they wanted to at that time. All right, I know we had some questions that had come up. If you'd like another opportunity to
That'd be
speak.
great, thank you. So elevation D, Zach, can you put elevation D up for me, please?
These are like artists
Yeah,
showing the
just-
changes.
Right, so like the one that elevation D, okay, right here. So elevation D shows this one here, and if you pull it down, the top here is really this line right here that goes all the way across. And when Tony mentioned that there was no height difference, there's actually 6 feet 3 inch height increase on this line right here. This is the south side of Sunset Shores. So basically, this here is non-existent currently. And so when the view comes from the side, they're going to get hit right there. This tower, this third story tower they're putting there, most likely won't impact us at all. It's this here and it's these here that will be the greatest impact to Reefgate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, just to clarify,
Yes.
and I don't want this to turn into a back and forth.
Yeah.
Did you have any other statements other than to bring that particular issue up?
No, I just wanted to let you know when they say it's only 40 to 42, it's
Mhm.
really 6 feet 3 inches that
Okay.
we're looking at here.
Yeah.
And-
So, just to clarify for the record, when I was looking at the plans with the architect, we were talking about the roof elevation that's, I'll say, on the left side.
Here,
Yeah,
here,
the new.
Yeah, just above the windows.
Yeah, just above the exactly.
right.
Yeah. So we were talking about that area. What the architect was saying was that the other roof elements that you point to that are a 6-foot increase, that based on the location of your building
Yes.
specifically, that those are based on the angle of looking down are not going to be visible beyond the roof, the back of the roof line, or they're not going to obstruct ocean views. And when I'm looking at Google Maps, that kind of tracks. I mean, I'm sure there might be some impacts, but the buildings, and Zach, maybe you can pull up the location map. Yeah, and if we could zoom in on that. So those taller elements are towards the front. I'll say the inland side of the building, and the shorter elements of the roof extension are on the ocean side. And so on the ocean side, it's really a 2-foot increase, and on the inland side is where you get into the 6-foot increases.
Right. So you have the third floor, fourth floor, this building looking straight over the higher roof elevation change.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they are looking there. So that's where the views get blocked. It's right here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. I have a procedural question about the development permit review process, and I just want to confirm one thing before I move on. Okay. Okay. All right. Let me just confirm we've talked about everything here. All right. So I do note the design review subcommittee was supportive with higher elevations. Was it discussed at that meeting the potential view impacts of those additional height elements?
That was not discussed.
Okay.
But aside from the public view impacts from the pier, that's why they wanted the embellishments. They thought it would look nice from the ocean pier side.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I will note, just for the record, the development permit process does allow for projects that are reviewed by the zoning administrator to be referred to a higher review level, which would mean the planning commission. And that's generally based on the level of public concern anticipated for a matter. And I understand that there are some concerns from the public that have been raised. But initially, there were six or seven of those public concerns, and today it seems like one. What I will say is that in my review of this, I believe that there will be some impacts to views. However, the city does not protect private views, unfortunately. What I will say is that in reviewing this, I think that the architect has done a very good job of putting the height increases towards the inland side of the building. And while there will be some additional height gained on the building, I think the overall benefit to the community is much better. This is a building that is in desperate need of a facelift, to say the least. And so I'm comfortable with the proposal, keeping in mind that the zoning administrator decisions are appealable, and so there is an avenue for that. I appreciate the condition of approval that the staff included in the resolution related to the guardrails on the backside of the building. And I think we definitely want to note for the record that While it's written that those railings should reflect the railings in the front of the building, I'm anticipating that a very, very similar design is what staff will be tied in to approve. I like the additional treatment with the to block the views of the pipes that are coming up, and with that, I think we've covered pretty much everything. I clarified that all the roof will be new tiles, whether it's on the existing or the new sections, and with that, I will close the public hearing, and I will state that I determined the project to be categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, and I will adopt Resolution ZA 24-005 approving Development Permit 23-415, subject to the attached conditions of approval, with the additional requirement that the U-shaped boxes to block the views of the pipes on the roof be entirely boxed out to further reduce the visibility of those pipes from the east. All right, and with that, thank you for your application, and thank you for working with the neighbors to address as many of their concerns as possible. And thank you to you for coming. I appreciate your input. And we do need to close out this meeting, which should just take a couple seconds. But everyone is free to leave if they would like. So we'll move on to new business. I see none. There's old business next. There's none of that either. And so we will adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting of the Zoning Administrator to be held at 3 p.m. on Thursday, April 18th, 2024 at the Community Development Department, first floor community room, located at 910 Calle Negocio, San Clemente, California.